Oh, hey kids, Ryan Reynolds here. And most of you guys know me for watching me on your mom's TV or in the Mint Mobile commercials. You probably know me as the nice guy giving those two-digit low prices on people's phones that use such a phone service. But before I was known for playing that guy, or before I was known for playing the other character whose name is also Guy that you can watch with no price guaranteed, I was actually known for playing this guy from DreamWorks Animation's franchise, The Croods. I was the caveman who's way ahead of his time, who came up with the ideas, who invented things like the clothes, and the pants, and the belt, and the ends. I was the guy that in Sterling on Sinemas' review of the original Croods in 2013, he is referring to as that guy. He's referring to as the guy whose daughter is madly in love with. And yes, I am in love with his daughter. And the reason why I'm wearing these shades is because that man, Grug, the father of the girl that I am madly in love with, or I think I love, he made an impact on me. It turns out I'm not the only caveman making an impact on these people during the Cretaceous period. And by the way, I didn't come up with shades, and that kind of said something. I didn't come up with shades, he came up with shades, and now, in honor of his idea, I'm now wearing it. You're welcome. So, with all that aside, we, the Croods, and I, Guy, we're searching for a safer habitat as we continue to follow the light. So this prehistoric family, as we're looking for a safer habitat, we actually discover this idyllic, walled-in paradise that meets all of our needs. The food, water, shelter, the whole nine. Unfortunately, we must also learn to live with the Bettermans, a family that's a couple of steps above the Croods on the evolutionary ladder. So it turns out the Bettermans are my family because you can see where I get all of these ideas in such a period where no man should have that level of intelligence. As tensions between the neighbors start to rise, a new threat soon propels both clans on an epic adventure that forces them to embrace their differences, draw strength from one another, and survive together. Well, hey, we'll see how that goes. Let me just address the mammoth in the room. In case you're wondering, yes, we are thinking the same thing. This film came out in 2020. What do the Croods have to say about that? Our sequel, of all the DreamWorks sequels, which are not as funny as us, by the way, came out in that year. So what do I have to say about it? What does the smartest caveman in the room have to say about it? Well, 2020, yes, I can understand. I have sympathy for all the families that suffered in 2020 because this was global, okay? Somewhere in the future, there's going to be a pandemic by something that is not a giant mosquito or a giant sand snake or a stupid mammoth. It actually turns out 2020, while not the best year for families across the world, you guys speak for yourself. I cannot speak for the Croods because we actually had the time of our lives. DreamWorks Animation treated us in 2013 with an animated film focusing on this very family, the Croods, struggling to survive, and we see that same family 7 years later finally getting to a place where everyone can thrive. That came from me. The Croods, A New Age, the name of the sequel, does a decent job at refraining from any changes to the story beats that made the original film effective and arguably aged well. The irony is that even when the story puts our titular clan in the midst of an oasis, a beautiful oasis, a very lush, pristine, immaculate oasis, by the way, almost making Blake jealous, it still does not get them out of a survival mindset. And this was the biggest conflict for our cavemen before they were granted with the gift of Guy for free. Speaking of which, this film opens up with an appropriate backstory for Guy that shows everything that was spoken previously about following the light in hopes of seeing tomorrow. Georgia. But see, I'm not the only person that loves to follow the light. If you saw Sterling's review on the original Croods from 2013, about a couple months ago, at least about a year, he was mentioning how Grug said his daughter Eep and I have one thing in common. We both like to follow the light, and thus we have basically found a unifying purpose to move forward towards something greater. With my ideas and my warnings and my prophecy, you'll say, The end was near. And so the end came about, so on so. They actually managed to do things my way, and not because they were doing things my way, but because they acted fast and they moved out of a space that their dad, Grug, that I have high respect for, which is why I'm wearing these shades, because it's his idea, not mine, which is why we are where we're at in this thriving space. So all this is happening while also recapping the events of the first movie and emphasizing the supposed romance between Eep and I, who I most dearly love. Remember all those stories I told in the original film about a baby tiger who had to defy her family in order to see tomorrow? The more she could get closer, the more she could climb, the more she could see, the more she could feel. And so this romantic subplot, in which, by the way, Eep is that baby tiger. She dresses like a tiger, looks like a tiger, she's as strong as a tiger, she's built like a tiger. Oh my God. Oh my God. You should have seen her. It's almost like she had a baby and just whoosh, couldn't have never guessed. This romantic subplot has been obvious from the start and would be explored deeper here and there, but the most important relationship involves the shared journey of both families, the Croods and the Bettermans, which turns out to be my family. I mean, it's all in the name as to why they would be my family and how we are ahead of the Cretaceous period with our ideas and with our sophisticated layout and with our bougie lifestyle, you could add. So, involves the shared journey of both families and how they go from coexisting to cooperating. The dynamics between each family member within the Croods stay fairly the same, seeing how they were already played well for laughs in the first one. How do you create an interesting dynamic between two prehistoric families when one is more advanced? That's where we get to the Bettermans. The intelligence and the ingenuity of myself, Guy, is one thing, but the Bettermans are the closest thing you will ever see to a modern family in the prehistoric era. They were the ones that when we got over there, that is when we discovered binge watching. Binge watching. This is one of those rare instances where the time span between the original film works in favor of the sequel, because the film's usage of the Bettermans' standard of living as a way to continue giving us references to the modern world through a prehistoric lens remains consistent with the stroke of genius. The comedy in this sequel is unarguably superior to its predecessor, as it goes beyond just giving us a caveman's interpretation of everyday aspects and ideas, but leaning more into straight up irreverent humor, straight up crude humor that set the tone for DreamWorks Animation in the beginning all those years ago, like way before that smelly ogre. The irreverence and crude humor mostly derives from the interaction of the family units, particularly on the Croods' part. Because when you have a dumb family, no offense, please don't tell Eep I said dumb. The dumb family and the smarter family, who's giving better dialogue? I want you to answer that question. The distinction on the two families with where they fall on the evolutionary ladder becomes a wedge that the Bettermans use to justify any slim chances of the Croods coexisting with them in this oasis, resulting in a series of clashes that ultimately lead to the revelation that the best bet at both families thriving is through the Bettermans offering their resources and sophistication to the Croods, and the Croods providing their survival skills to the Bettermans. You want to know what's crazy? Of all the survival skills that the Croods want to provide to my family, while having noble intentions for doing this, they don't even want to share their banana. There's something about these bananas that Grug really loves. He has a very soft spot for these bananas because of all the fruit that you could find out in this oasis. There's something about the banana that stays sacred. There's something about the color gold that almost reflects divinity and sovereignty and sacredness. There's something about these bananas that if they get eaten, we will get eaten. What is I don't see what is so dangerous about eating bananas. Grug doesn't see what is so dangerous about eating bananas, but I don't know. We'll catch it later. With a 77% recommendation on Rotten Tomatoes, The Croods: A New Age is a stone-cold continuation of the adventure that pioneered the ideas, the laughs, and the discoveries, even if the story lacks the merit and the amount of genre nuances from the original. So for that, I would give it about 79 ounces of berries out of 100, that would almost be equal to the worth of belt, wouldn't you say? With that being said, you guys have a good evening. I'm going to enjoy this fruit without Grug looking. I don't know where he is, but Grug isn't around. I'm going to enjoy this fruit for myself. Say nothing but good things about it. And that's how you can tell they're ripe. There's not an inch of green on there. There's not a tint of lime. And there is not an ounce of minute detail of green. You can just see the yellow, no brown, no green, freshly grown. While I'm still alive, I really don't see what the problem is. Okay, I guess that's where the problem is.